All right, let's take a look at the introduction to this course. I'm so excited to refresh this course for 2019-2020. It actually started in 2015, so we got a lot of new information. Let's go over the table of contents of the book we're going to cover today. So we'll start with an introduction. And I'm going to introduce you to just myself and, my story and the story of so many churches, which really is that of connecting to people online, connecting to people who maybe have moved away. Like my wife from Missouri, she moved to live with me in Philadelphia, but she's very connected and rooted in her church in Missouri. And I was able to help them get a live streaming system so that we could watch the Christmas services and the holiday services and still stay in touch because our children have been baptized there. We really feel, connected to that church, yet we had no window inside of the church. So we'll talk about why it's so great to build a bridge between your church and the community and kind of high level foundational information. Then we'll talk about kind of telling your story, like what is your church's story and what makes it unique. And we'll talk about that in particular about how you can kind of leverage, what you do best. What you do best, how can we put that out to the world and use it as kind of a digital handshake, a bridge to the world, and really get people to come from Facebook, from online, into the church and really step into the church and make that transition. Next, we'll actually introduce you to the digital pastor, Seth Haberman, a really good friend of mine, and we'll talk about online donations. And online donations, in my opinion, is one of the biggest number one ways to increase first-time giving and just increase giving overall. Now, digital donations, we'll talk about push pay and some of the online donations that actually people are donating before the collection buckets are ever even reaching them at the end of the service. But also, YouTube and Facebook are now accepting donations directly through social media platforms. And I really think that is going to become the number one way to increase giving. If you have a certain, every once in a while, your pastor is going to have a great sermon and people are going to want to share it. And there's going to be a compelling message inside of there. And if that gets shared virally on social media or just even locally to the friends and family that are connected to your members, it can really increase giving. And I think it's a great way to just further the organization and the church as a whole. Then we'll really start digging into what a complete newbie should know about live streaming a service. And this literally covers everything. Let me flip over to it really quickly because it really covers, once we get through the donation stuff, it covers everything from audio. We'll talk about all the video switchers and video production software. We'll talk about why it's so important to choose the right software. We've got a lot of great tips here. We'll talk about some case studies about controlling cameras, working with volunteers, everything you need to know about selecting the right resolution, bandwidth, frame rate. We'll go over all of that. We've got step-by-step guides for your volunteers, how to optimize the bandwidth that your church has. There's maybe some give and take there. We'll also talk about church licensing. So being legal with your Christian music that you're from the CCLI. We'll talk about your options for storing lyrics, printing songs, recording services, making custom arrangements, projecting lyrics, and then streaming all of that content online as well, and even maybe having an event where you're going to be streaming that. Also important is privacy and consideration. So we'll talk about putting information into the bulletins and handouts about the live stream, and it's actually a great way to increase your communication with your volunteers. Analytics, I'm not going to go over all this, so there's just a lot there to the complete newbie update. Then we'll go into my favorite tip for social media, and that really is Facebook. Facebook is just a great place to connect people with their friends and family and those members of your church. So some really great tips there. We'll talk about working with volunteers. We've got a whole chapter on volunteering and what it takes to build a good church media team. Getting out and meeting other churches as well is kind of part of that. We'll talk about all the audio-visual basics. So we will go into cables. And a lot of that actually hasn't changed. So there's still a couple of the older videos from the course when it was originally started that will still stay in this because it's still tried and true information. But then we'll update it and bring you some really great information about just the basics. This is for volunteers. This is for people familiarizing themselves with the technology needed to live stream. Then we've got a great case study from the Olivet United Methodist Church that's going to take everything we've learned in this course and really show it in real context. What's a real church doing? What are people commenting? What are people saying? What do people like about it? What did the church like about it? What do they don't like about it? What are the struggles that they had putting together a system themselves on a budget? So we'll go over all of that. Then we've got chapter 9, tips from industry experts. I have 5 different friends in different parts of the industry that work with churches that gave us their best tips for putting together church streaming systems. Then we'll talk about tuning your audiovisual equipment. And this is one of my favorite chapters because churches have specific needs when it comes to camera placement, camera tuning, especially audio mixing. We don't go into you could write a whole book about audio mixing, which I will suggest, Mixing for God by Dr. Barry Hill. But and it's referenced in this book. But we give you a good idea of how to create a basic audio mix, and then of course tune all of your cameras, color match everything, and do justice for the beautiful space that you're going to be streaming in. Probably the most advanced is basics of IP networking. We go all the way into, and this is in the end of the book here, but we go all the way into connecting networks together with routers, Wi-Fi access points, IP addresses for each one of your devices, talking about all the networking you need. Even the most advanced thing is multicast, which if you have a network, you may have a multicast enabled network switch, and you can do a lot of amazing things distributing video content over your IP network. It's advanced. You might want to skip it if you're not the church media technology person, but it's got some great stuff in there, and I tried to write it so that anyone could understand what's possible. Then we'll talk about power over Ethernet. Because power over Ethernet is such a new technology, so powerful, it's a great way to power cameras, power televisions, power Wi-Fi access points. This is the way that you can avoid paying hundreds of dollars to an electrician. It's 100% safe, and you can buy spools of Ethernet cabling and create them yourself. It's a great way to save money and really do more with less. Finally, why your church should start a podcast. So many churches are starting great podcasts. It's an amazing way. It dovetails into live streaming, so I wanted to include that. I've had a great opportunity to work with a lot of churches that have good podcasts, and it's just a great outreach tool. So we'll wrap up with a conclusion. That's what you're going to learn in this course, totally updated, and I cannot wait to move forward. So next, we will jump right into let's see, what is next? Next, we will jump right into digital pastor and online donations. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I don't know if you know this, but we have a Facebook user group called Churches That Live Stream. And I really highly suggest you joining to learn more, collaborate with like-minded church media and pastors online, and then pick up the book. It's a great read. It's only $9.99. You can listen to it on Audible, and it's only $2.99 on Kindle. If you take my online course and you don't have the funds to buy the book, I do include excerpts from the book, everything you'll need to learn and help your church live stream for free.